GVSU wins 35-7 at Northern Michigan in a game that truly was really close, really competitive in the first half, but GVSU ended up using a huge third quarter to truly push this game open and never look back. But if you're Northern Michigan going into this game, I believe they have a 38, maybe a 39 streak of consecutive losses. Like, this is a game against a top 10 team in the country, and you have to be pretty happy with how the first half went, especially going up against a team as talented as GVSU. GVSU wasn't able to do a ton offensively when it came to the first half. Now, they were able to move the ball a little bit, but they weren't able to put up points. And when you have a team that is on a losing streak that is of Northern Michigan's length, you need to be able to keep these games close. You need to be able to truly rely on your defense to keep you in games at points. And I think Northern Michigan did a very good job of that. Now, obviously, when you hold GVSU to 7 points in the first half, you'd love to at least have a lead or at least tied going into halftime. And that's exactly what happened. GVSU wasn't able to put up any points until about 5:43 left to go in this first half, when Andrew Schuster was able to connect with Kellen Reed for a 20-yard touchdown pass. When you're down 7-0 at this point, you truly wanted to kind of go into half, if you're Northern Michigan, at least down 7, maybe tied. And you really have to give a ton of credit to Northern Michigan because they continued to fight in this game, and they were actually able to go into half tied after a 1-yard touchdown run from Noah Dubert. He's been their main guy running the ball. He's been one of the best offensive playmakers that this Northern Michigan team has. With 30 seconds left to go before the end of the first half, they had a 6-play, 55-yard drive that took 1 minute and 7 seconds to score. When you have that, there's a lot of hope going in the second half. But truly, that is when GVSU just put their foot on the pedal and just continued to go. And it was through the air. It was on the ground. It started with a touchdown pass from a quarterback that hasn't played a ton this year. They actually played 3 quarterbacks in this game. You have a guy in Zach Olinazik. He had a 24-yard touchdown pass to Lynn Wetchy L. Great drive to truly start the second half. Then GVSU got a little bit of the run game going with Pascal Jolman. Andrew Schuster got a little bit involved as well to end the third quarter. And at the end of the third quarter, GVSU was up 28-7. And at that point, it was over for Northern Michigan. Northern Michigan wasn't able to get anything going offensively. They weren't able to put up any more points than what they did with 30 seconds left to go in the first half. And then Kenneth Jones was able to have a touchdown run at the very beginning of the fourth quarter to truly put it away at 35-7. But if you're Northern Michigan, you obviously have to be pretty happy with that first half, especially going up against a defense that is GVSU. Now, obviously, you'll be a lot more happier with the performance that your defense had against the offense. I mentioned a guy like Andrew Schuster. I've mentioned a guy like Zach Olinazak. Those 2 guys were able to contribute. Andrew Schuster did have an interception in this game, so Northern Michigan was able to force a turnover, which is obviously going to be key when you're trying to pull off an upset. But there was also a third quarterback involved, and he was actually the leading rusher for this GVSU team, Brady Drogosh. He's a guy that, while he did have a few passing attempts in this game, he's been really kind of the quarterback that has been using his legs. Like I said, leading rusher for this team. You also have Derek Woods that got involved, Pascal Jolman that got involved, Kellen Russell Dixon. GVSU was able to run for 109 yards on the ground. Now, it truly was through the air that GVSU was able to more attack this Northern Michigan defense. They had 220 yards through the air. So if you look at just what GVSU did running versus passing the ball, they averaged about 330 yards in this game, which if you look at it as a whole, might not be the greatest performance that GVSU has ever had. But if you look at what they did comparatively to what Northern Michigan did, Northern Michigan was able to only throw for 102 yards on the day, and they were only able to run for 104 yards on the day. Now, going into this game, I did talk about Northern Michigan. I talked about their strength, and it was running the ball. It was about getting it to Noah Dubert. It's about getting it to Jahai Wood. the quarterback actually ran for a few yards as well. And then you have Tucker Welch getting a few carries as well. So Northern Michigan was able to get a little bit of the run game going. But when you have kind of the defense that GVSU has and just how much pressure they can truly put on you, that causes issues. And it truly causes issues not only because it can cause the other team to truly get in the backfield quite a bit, which is exactly what GVSU did, but it allows you to make mistakes. And this Northern Michigan team threw 3 interceptions in this game. One was intercepted by Tommy Barnett. One was interception by Jason Hardy. But not only were they able to get those 3 interceptions, they were able to get multiple tackles for loss. Now, GVSU only ended out having 1 sack on the day, which that was actually from Ryder Gravenhoof. He had the only sack on the day. He also obviously had a tackle for loss because of that. But you had other guys that really contributed. Jimmy Downs had a tackle for loss. Deontay Pippen had 1.5 tackles for loss. Tyus Jackson had 1. Even though they struggled getting to the quarterback, they forced Northern Michigan to make mistakes. They forced them to throw interceptions, and they forced them to truly get behind the 8 ball. And when you get behind the 8 ball with kind of the offense that struggled in this game, when you're truly dependent on kind of running the ball, it truly puts a lot of pressure on these quarterbacks. And I think that's truly what ended up being the main reason why this ended up being a 35-7 win for GVSU, because when they needed big plays, GVSU defensively was able to make those. They forced Northern Michigan to not truly play their game. And when that happens, when you have as much talent as this GVSU team, it's going to end in a result that probably won't end well for Northern Michigan. And that is exactly what happened in this game. And GVSU gets another win in the GLIAC. Obviously, their goals are still in front of them. Northern Michigan's going to play, I believe, Roosevelt this week. So they have a chance to break their losing streak. But yeah, this was a game that you do have to give a ton of credit to Northern Michigan. They were able to fight in that first half, but truly it was GVSU getting things going offensively, getting in the backfield quite a bit, and just making less mistakes than Northern Michigan were the main reasons why GVSU was able to win this game, especially with the dominant second half. But yeah, that's the end of this recap. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. I'll obviously talk more about GVSU, talk more about Northern Michigan going forward, but good luck to both teams for the rest of the year. Obviously, when you have 2 teams in the same conference, they're going to play each other, so I'm going to have to talk about that. But good win for GVSU, and hopefully Northern Michigan can get their first win in a little while, either this upcoming week or sometime later this season.